Based on a true story, the movie begins in 1989 in the state of Arkansas, where we see the baptism of 12-year-old Brandon Burlsworth. He struggles with being overweight and constantly endures offensive comments. However, his mother Barbara reminds him that God made him that way for a good reason. His brother Marty, who is 17 years older, never stops complaining about Brandon spending his days watching TV and eating junk food. Yet Brandon remains focused on the television, growing interested in American football and declaring that he will pursue that sport. The moment he says this, his mother offers him her full support, though his brother is not as convinced. At least he uses the opportunity to help Brandon train. The next day, Brandon joins his school's football team. However, since he barely knows the rules, he quickly becomes a laughingstock. Right away, his coach sends him to the bench, where he meets another coach watching the game. This coach suggests that he be the first to arrive at practice and the last to leave, as that is the only way to become a great player. After the game, Brandon is picked up by his father Leo, whom Barbara left many years ago because of his alcoholism. Still, he remains the father of her children. At first, Leo behaves wonderfully with his son. He even plays guitar and teaches Brandon a few songs. But the next morning, Brandon finds him completely drunk. The boy immediately calls his brother to come get him, making it clear to his father that he should stay away from their lives. Years later, we see that Brandon has become a regular player on his high school team. Following the advice of Tate, the coach who encouraged him, he is always the first to arrive at practice and the last to leave. Later on, Marty takes his brother to watch a game of the University of Arkansas Razorbacks, the team where Brandon dreams of starting his career to eventually reach the NFL. Therefore, both brothers focus on making a good impression on the Razorbacks coach. Unfortunately, the coach rejects Brandon because he is not yet big enough to play at the college level. On a different day, Brandon receives fantastic news. He has earned a sports scholarship to the Arkansas Tech University. His entire family is thrilled, except for Brandon himself, who insists on joining the Razorbacks. He remains upset until graduation day, still refusing to attend Arkansas Tech, even though his brother reminds him that they have no way to pay for the main University of Arkansas. That night, Brandon sees his mother struggling with some bills and regrets his proud behavior. He decides to accept the scholarship. However, shortly thereafter, Barbara surprises him by announcing that she secured a second mortgage so that he can study at the main University of Arkansas for a year. She is convinced he will earn a scholarship during that time and pay her back. The next day, Brandon says goodbye to his family, receiving a phone from his brother so he can call anytime. When he arrives at the university stadium, the young man quickly becomes the object of ridicule among the other athletes because of his weight. Even Coach Bender jokingly tells him he went overboard with gaining size. Consequently, Brandon is relegated to being an assistant for the scholarship players. Things do not improve during practice because Brandon is too slow, trips over everything, and can barely handle the physical demands. He would vomit after a short sprint. Nevertheless, he never gives up. Seeing his effort, Bender reminds him that it is not about size or strength, but about agility, which is the most important factor. Another coach questions Bender for focusing so much on a walk-on, a non-scholarship player. But Bender explains that everyone deserves the same opportunities. One never knows when a hidden gem might appear. Nevertheless, since only 2 weeks remain before the start of the sports season, Brandon cannot make the main team. He has until the end of the year to prove himself. Otherwise, he will be cut and won't earn a scholarship. His teammates do not help at all, frequently mocking him for his excessive sense of responsibility and for staying in such close contact with his mother. When Brandon goes to visit his mother, he confesses he will not get a scholarship this season. Still, his mother encourages him to continue. At the next practice, Brandon pushes himself so hard that he nearly injures a scholarship player. Bender is furious at first, but quickly regrets his reaction and gives Brandon another chance, provided he loses weight. The protagonist then starts to train daily, again being the first to arrive and the last to leave. His brother visits occasionally to help him work out. Little by little, Brandon starts to lose weight while gaining muscle and speed. His physical transformation is so noticeable that even the teammates who used to tease him begin to admire his talent and perseverance. Finally, the moment comes to face Ward, one of the best players. Bender advises Brandon to focus on technique rather than winning. However, Brandon outperforms Ward in strength in every round, earning his team's complete admiration. His teammates start inviting him to a bar to hang out, but they play a prank on him by giving him an alcoholic drink, knowing Brandon has a firm no-alcohol rule. As soon as the alcohol starts taking effect, Brandon tells them that if he doesn't manage to stay on the team because of a lack of scholarship, he will still remember them fondly. The situation changes when a waitress tells them there will be no more alcohol, and Brandon realizes his friends tricked him into breaking his sacred rule. As a form of penance, he goes for a run in the rain. Feeling remorseful, his friends, except Ward, who thinks Brandon believes he is better than everyone else, run after him. Eventually, Ward follows them too. When they finish, they all apologize, repairing their friendship. The sports season finally starts, and the crowd size amazes Brandon. Even though he is still on the bench, Coach Bender waits until evening to inform Brandon that he has earned his scholarship, an immediate piece of news he shares with his family, causing immense joy. With a 3-year contract, he officially becomes a Razorback, something even his brother can hardly believe. We jump to 1997 to a game against Florida, where Brandon starts on the main roster. Everything goes well until his vision starts blurring, causing him to miss easy plays. As a result, he is prescribed glasses to help him see, though he looks a bit silly, giving his teammates something to tease him about, albeit in a friendly manner. Later, on his way to practice, Brandon learns that his father has been hospitalized with lung cancer. Despite this, he wants to continue going to practice. However, Bender suggests he visit his father instead. When Brandon arrives, Leo apologizes to his 2 sons for not being a good father and asks them to take care of their mother. Brandon and Marty pray for Leo's recovery, but ultimately he succumbs to his illness. Sometime later, the Razorbacks end the season on a long losing streak, leading the university to hire a new head coach. Nut. Brandon worries that he may never make it into the NFL, since this is his last year in college, and NFL scouts only look at winning teams. Seeking advice from Bender, the coach suggests Brandon's only real chance is winning an All-American, an award given to the best collegiate athletes in any sport. Of course, that is extremely difficult to achieve. However, Brandon keeps his faith, asking the new head coach not to reform the team, but rather trust the current players to win the upcoming championship. Nutt agrees, so Brandon leads his teammates to a summer training camp, determined to push their skills to the limit. Initially, his peers are quite lazy since they are about to graduate, but Brandon forces them to wake up early and improve their abilities. These efforts pay off in the first game of the new season. The Razorbacks secure a fantastic victory. As a result, Nutt names Brandon as team captain. Brandon also helps the walk-on players reach an impressive level during practice. As the season progresses, they continue racking up victory after victory, raising their reputation and growing their fan base. Of course, Brandon is the team's biggest star, and he also teaches them the importance of prayer. After an 8-game winning streak, the Razorbacks have a shot at the championship against the top-ranked team at the time, Tennessee. The game is every bit as intense as expected, with both teams fighting for a very close score. Razorbacks fans are certain this is their year of glory, and what Brandon has achieved cannot go unrewarded. At one point, a rival player breaks away with the ball heading for a touchdown, but Brandon intercepts him halfway. In the subsequent plays, the Razorbacks nearly have the game won until Brandon accidentally trips over his teammate Clint, causing them to lose possession. Tennessee recovers on the scoreboard. Discouraged, the Razorbacks ease off their intensity and end up losing, allowing Tennessee to defend its national title. Afterward, Brandon sadly approaches Clint, asking him to admit to the press that he had some part in the trip so that not all the blame falls on Brandon. But Clint says that is just part of the game and assumes full responsibility for the mistake. Brandon, moved by his teammates' honesty, cannot hold back tears and is comforted by Coach Tice, the one who believed in him from the start. A few days later, Brandon is out on a picnic with his family when they hear the announcement of the All-American winners. Brandon's name is called, unleashing everyone's excitement. Naturally, the NFL soon takes notice of the young man, and he is signed by the Indianapolis Colts. In his very first practice with the new team, despite being the youngest player, Brandon is picked as a starter for the upcoming game. He is overjoyed, but also feels a bit strange because he is not used to achieving something so quickly. He is accustomed to putting in tremendous effort to reach his goals. In truth, he has indeed worked very hard to arrive at this point. Sometime later, the protagonist returns to Arkansas to visit his old stadium, but he cannot stay to hang out with his friends because he promised to take his mother to church. He sets off toward his old home, noticing a trailer passing unusually close to his vehicle. He continues, feeling something strange inside. Meanwhile, Marty also heads to their mother's house, only to be shocked by the sight of police officers there. Tragically, the worst has happened. Brandon has just died in a car accident, hit head-on by a trailer. Upon hearing the news, Marty sees Brandon's life pass before his eyes, recalling all the beautiful memories they made together. Yet he must face reality to comfort his mother. However, how can one cope with losing a 22-year-old who has only just achieved his dream? Marty cannot stop thinking about that at the funeral, unable to understand why God would take his brother so soon. His mother, more composed, reminds him that they are all part of a greater plan. Marty still refuses to go inside the funeral until he sees a huge floral arrangement on the field that reads, "In God we trust," in Brandon's honor. Wherever he went, he brought faith and hope. Realizing what his brother accomplished in life, Marty finally enters the funeral, where the entire community has gathered for Brandon. Rather than weeping, they sing joyously in his memory. In the epilogue, we learn that since Brandon's death, the University of Arkansas has awarded 18 scholarships every year in his honor, and they created a foundation in his name to help children with vision problems. As for Marty, he runs a camp to teach the style of football his brother championed, combining faith with hard work.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.